Hi, everybody. Hello, fellow miracle workers. I'm Teresa McGallagher, and I'm so glad that you can join me again this Wednesday for some wisdom from A Course in Miracles and other spiritual practices, because all spiritual practices teach the same basic concepts with different words and different modalities. And my path has been A Course in Miracles, and I am delighted to be here and to share it with you. So this week, I want to talk about forgiveness around finances. And forgiveness, as taught in A Course in Miracles, has nothing to do with pardoning an offense. It has to do with letting go, with detachment, with releasing, with divorcing yourself from the situation that is causing you mental stress and trauma. So I have a story to share with you from my personal life once again, and I had a crazy week. So here is what happened. First of all, it came into my awareness that I had a belief that I was not a good money manager, that if I were to receive a large amount of money, I wouldn't know what to do with it, and that was not a talent of mine. So I was doing some forgiveness work with that belief. Forgiveness involves becoming aware of the false beliefs that we hold about ourselves, about the world, about life, and releasing them so that the truth can come in. So I was looking at this belief that I had that I was not a good money manager. And as part of the forgiveness work, what I did was make a list in my journal of all the times in my life where I felt that I had made bad decisions with money, where I had been a failure when it came to managing the money that I had. And I had a list of maybe 12 or 15 things that had been very upsetting for me at the time when they happened. So some of these things involved like losing money, setting it down and forgetting what I did with it or having somebody take it. There were some other examples where I had invested some money in things that didn't pan out and where I lost the money. And there were other times where I had given money to people who asked for it or who I felt needed it at the expense of myself. So I had given money away to others because I was in this people-pleasing mode when I really needed the money for myself. So I looked at all of these things that had occurred in the past that used to really upset me. When I would look at those financial decisions, I would feel bad in the pit of my stomach. And I would think, oh, I screwed up. I really made a mistake. Like, money is a problem for me. That was my belief system, right? And then as part of this forgiveness process that I was doing, once I identified those mistakes that I had made and how they made me feel guilty or ashamed or negative in some way, I forgave myself for doing those things, because everybody makes mistakes. Nobody's perfect. And why should I have held myself to this impossibly high standard of always doing everything right, especially when some of those mistakes I made as a teenager, as a young woman, when I really didn't have much experience with money. So I gave myself some grace and forgiveness around those specific examples. And then I rewrote and I reframed the story that I am not good at managing money. I came up with examples where I had managed money very well. And I had as many of those examples, if not more, of the times when I had mismanaged the money. Now, here's something really interesting to me. I was doing an exercise a couple of weeks ago that I was asked to do by my coach, who said reach out to 25, 30 people and ask them to list the top 3 things that they think you're best at. What would they come to you for advice on? And people who did not know me well listed certain things, but my family members, my 3 children, my husband, my mother-in-law, the people who know me very well, my sister-in-law, all said that they would come to me if they needed help with finances. that they would come to me if they were trying to figure out how to invest their money or what to do with their money. So clearly, my perception of myself in that area was different from their perception of me. They saw me as a very good money manager, but I was beating myself up in the back of my mind for decades over these particular mistakes that I had made. One of them involved losing a house that my grandfather had left to me in his will. And through a series of unfortunate and ill-advised decisions that I made, I lost that house and I ended up not owning it. And I felt really guilty about that for many, many years. So I was doing this forgiveness work around finances. And then this is how the process always goes. You uncover the belief, you work with the belief, you let go of the shame and the guilt and the upset around the belief. You give yourself grace, and then something will show up in your life to test you, to see, have you truly embraced a new belief around this thing? Or are you still holding on to your former belief? Have you really let it go and really forgiven it or not? So here's what happened next. My husband and I built this house last year in Pennsylvania where we retired to, and we moved in right after Christmas. And we had a sofa in our living room that neither one of us liked. It was a used sofa that we did not intend to keep permanently here, but it was something to sit on. It was very uncomfortable. So we sat on that sofa for the last few months and we kept talking about how we want to get a different sofa. And I had a vision in my mind for what I wanted our new sofa to look like. So my vision involved an L-shaped sectional that was cream or ivory in color. And that was a very soft, cozy, comfortable kind of fabric that I would enjoy sitting on to curl up with a book in front of the fireplace or curl up with my husband and watch television. So I shopped a little bit online. I got overwhelmed by all the choices. We went to furniture stores here in the Pennsylvania area. We could not find anything that we liked locally. It's a very rural area and the selections are limited. And then I went on vacation to Peru with my mom for 2 weeks. While I was gone, my husband gave away that uncomfortable, ugly sofa that we had in our living room. And then he had nothing to sit on. He's sitting on a dining chair to watch TV. So suddenly the need to buy a new sofa became an urgent matter for him. I was gone. I didn't know. I didn't care. But I came back to the country and I flew into an airport in Virginia near where my daughter lives. My husband came down to meet me and he said, while we're here in Northern Virginia, where there are a lot of shops and a lot of options, we should go shopping for a new sofa. So I said, okay. First store we went to, they said, oh, because of COVID and the supply chain, it's going to be months before we can get anything. You can pick something out, but it will take 6 months to come in. Next store we went to, neither one of us liked anything that they had. The third store that we went to, we found a sofa that was the right fabric for me, wasn't quite right color. It was more light gray than ivory. And my husband sat down on it and found out that it had this secret recliner. And he said, oh, I want to get this sofa. I like it. The sofa was $3,000. And it had these headrests that came up behind that had these metal arms you pushed up. And then when the recliner came up, to me, it looked kind of Mod Squad, like something out of the Jetsons. And it wasn't exactly what I had envisioned. It was close, but no cigar. But I wanted to make my husband happy. He was in love with that sofa. He was like, we need a sofa. This is the one. Let's get it. So I went along with him. And he went with the salesman to do all the paperwork, filled out the sale. And as he was doing that, I started to feel really upset. And I didn't know why, but I felt like the whole process was too rushed. And it was happening before I knew what, the decision was made, and it was just going too fast for me. And I could feel this like lump in my throat. So I told my husband, give me the car keys. I'm going to wait outside for you in the parking lot while you finish the paperwork. And I went outside, I got into our truck, and I just started bawling. I was so upset. I did not want that sofa, but I had been trying to compromise. I wanted to please me. I wanted to please my husband. I also kind of wanted to please the salesman who was from Africa, and I'm sure it was a great commission for him. And I just felt pinched in the middle of this process where things were coming together so fast, and I just started crying and crying and crying. Well, my husband knew as soon as I asked him for the car keys that something was wrong. So he came out to the parking lot and he found me crying, and he said, what is going on here? And I told him I didn't want the sofa. And he's like, why didn't you say something before I did all the paperwork? And I was like, well, I thought I could be happy with it, but now I don't think I will be happy with it. But the deal is done, and I didn't want to cause a scene. And my husband, Jim that he is, said, I can't see you unhappy like this. I don't want to take the sofa home and then for the rest of our lives have you be miserable because you hate it. If you want me to go back into the store and cancel the sale, I will. And I said, yes, that's what I want you to do. And then he said, okay, you come in with me. And I was like, no, it's too embarrassing. I'm too up. I can't go back in there. So he went in. My husband is a saint. If I haven't mentioned this before, my husband went back into the store and he canceled the sale. So then we went home together with, not home, we went back to my daughter's house together with no sofa. And my husband was mad. And I was upset and feeling frustrated. But what I realized was after I did all this forgiveness work on finances and how I handle money and how I make decisions about money, this situation arose where I was put to the test to see if I really could make decisions with certainty and with guidance. So the guidance that we receive from Holy Spirit is not always a voice in your head, but for me, often it's a feeling. And if I tune that feeling out, if my feeling is this is not aligned, this is not perfect for me, but I override that guidance and that feeling and say, I'm going to go along to make other people happy, it doesn't end well. So it was a test for me to stay aligned with my guidance, to stay connected to my true desires, and to make decisions from that place, from the heart. So the evening was kind of a bust. We were both in a really bad mood. We both felt like, we have no sofa now. We had this big upset. We wasted our time, our energy, our gas for nothing. And the next morning, we went to meet my son for brunch in another part of Virginia. And I said to my husband, would you be willing to go to some more furniture stores with me to see if we can find something in this area? And he agreed. And we went to another furniture store and we walked in and immediately found the perfect sofa to make both of us happy. It was the right dimensions, the right color, the right fabric. We sat down on it. It was comfortable. And then I noticed there were little hidden buttons on the side. And I told my husband to push the button to see what happened. And it turned out it was a recliner, but you couldn't tell to look at it. So the point of this whole big story here is that when we take the time to look at the judgments that we have made against ourselves about how we are lacking in some way, how we're not good, how we are failures, and we are able to forgive that idea, because any negative idea that you have is not an idea from source. Negative voices in your head telling you there's something wrong with you are straight from the devil's mouth. That is your ego talking. So when we take the time to become aware of those crazy critical voices in our head, to forgive those messages that are coming in by releasing them, by doing the work to look at what we believe, to tell ourselves the truth, which is always positive, and let go of the negatives, forgive them and release them, then things will show up in the 3D world to reflect the new belief system. And for me, the thing that showed up to reflect the new belief system was you can make decisions about money. You can have things work out perfectly for you as long as you stay true to your desires and to yourself. When you're trying to please everybody else and compromise, it doesn't end well for you. Now, some people have, different people have different challenges. Some people are selfish and they're always thinking about themselves and not others. And that's a whole different set of problems. But that is not the history that I have. My history has been to try to please other people at the expense of myself. So in this particular instance, I was tested with, here's a situation where you can make yourself happy or give your power away. And initially, I made the wrong choice out of habit, and I gave my power away. But then I backpedaled, and we canceled the sale, and the reward, the miracle, that was that the very next place that we went to, we found exactly what we were looking for, and that made everybody happy. So that's my Wisdom Wednesday video for you this week. I hope you understood what I was trying to express, and if you didn't, please feel free to leave questions down below. I love reading all of your comments, and I'm so happy that you could join me this week. I'll see you again next week. I'm Teresa McGallagher, and I love you. Bye-bye.